Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we aren't just looking at a chapter in a history book. We're looking at a fracture point, a moment in the human timeline.
We really are. We're going back to the 6th century BC.
And what's amazing is, if you zoom out, this isn't just happening in India, it's a kind of global intellectual explosion.
It is. It's often called the Axial Age.
Yeah.
You've got Heraclitus over in Greece, Zoroaster in Iran, Confucius in China.
And in India, the whole landscape is just fertile for a massive rebellion of ideas.
And that's exactly what we're breaking down today. We are doing a comprehensive summary of the Tamil Nadu Board Class XI History, Chapter 4, Jainism and Buddhism.
Exactly. And just before we dive in, we need to be crystal clear about why we're doing this and who this is for. This audio is generated specifically for the Simplified UPSC by PPP YouTube channel.
That's the mission. This is a full summary built from the ground up for UPSC aspirants. We're not just telling you the story.
No. We're connecting the dots for the exam. We are integrating previous year question linkages, the PYQs, right into our conversation.
So you know not just what happened, but why it matters for clearing the paper.
Right. Now, because of that, a quick but very humble request. If this content is valuable to you, please subscribe to the Simplified UPSC by PPP YouTube channel.
It really does keep this whole thing going.
It does. And if you're in a position to, and you want to support us even more, please consider joining us on Patreon.
And to all of our current supporters, a huge, heartfelt shout-out. You are the ones who make this kind of deep dive possible.
We genuinely couldn't do it without you. Thank you. Also, you know the drill, like the video, leave a comment. It really helps other students find this material.
And one last thing on resources. The free notes with practice PYQs are up on our public Telegram channel. You just have to DM to join.
And for those who want everything in one place.
Right. There's the private Telegram library. You get access to all videos in the series all at once, plus organized premium notes.
And the premium notes are pretty detailed.
Oh, yeah. Detailed notes, extra PYQs, and even model mains answers. Everything you need.
Okay. Essential stuff. Let's get into it. The roadmap for today. First, we'll look at the causes, the soil of rebellion.
Then we'll dig into Jainism, especially the tricky philosophical points that show up in exams.
Then Buddhism, the middle path, the councils.
And we'll finish with art and culture, which is, a favorite hunting ground for the UPSC.
It is. So let's start at the beginning. The soil. The 6th century BC, the source text calls it a time of religious unrest. Why? I mean, the Vedic system had been dominant for centuries. What went wrong?
Well, you have to remember that the later Vedic period was very different from the early Vedic period. It had become incredibly complex and rigid.
How so?
For the rituals, the source says the sacrificial ceremonies were found to be too expensive for ordinary people.
So it's basically a paywall for salvation. If you can't afford the big sacrifice, you're out of luck.
That's a perfect way to put it. It became an economic barrier. And it was just confusing. The superstitious beliefs, the mantras, they were all in Sanskrit, which the common person didn't speak fluently.
So it's gatekept by language and by money.
Exactly. The priestly class had a monopoly on the path to the gods, and it was a very exclusive path.
But hold on, what about the thinkers, the philosophers? We've talked about the Upanishads before. Couldn't they just bypass the rituals and go for the philosophy?
You'd think so, but that's the other side of the coin. The Upanishads are brilliant, but they are incredibly philosophical. They demand jnana, true knowledge.
Which is not easy.
Not at all. It's intellectually demanding.
Yeah.
Your average farmer or merchant needed a simple, short, and intelligible way to find peace or salvation. They needed something straightforward.
Something in their own language, I imagine.
Precisely. In Pali or Prakrit, not High Sanskrit. So you have this huge gap in the market, spiritually speaking.
A gap for a simpler, more accessible faith? But it wasn't just spiritual, was it? The social hierarchy, the caste system was a huge factor.
Oh, absolutely. The Varna system was rigid. You had the 4 classes, and your position was fixed. But here's where it gets really interesting for the exam. It wasn't just the people at the bottom who were unhappy.
You're talking about the Kshatriya reaction.
Exactly. The warriors, the rulers, they were technically number 2 in the hierarchy, right below the Brahmins.
And being number 2 was the problem.
It was. They deeply resented the domination of the priestly class. It's no accident, that both Gautama Buddha and Vardhamana Mahavira were Kshatriyas.
Right. So this is also a power struggle. The ruling class pushing back against the priestly class.
It's a major political dimension to the whole story.
Okay, so we have unhappy commoners and resentful warriors. What about the third group? The Vaishyas. The merchants.
This is the economic engine of the whole movement. The 6th century BC sees a boom in trade. The use of iron for agriculture creates a surplus.
Which means there's more stuff to trade.
Right, and the Vaishyas are the ones doing the trading, so they're getting rich, their economic condition is shooting up, but their social status is completely stagnant.
They have the money, but none of the prestige. Third-class citizens with first-class bank accounts.
That's it exactly. They desperately wanted to improve their social standing, and the orthodox system wouldn't let them. So what did they do?
They funded the competition.
They became the chief patrons of Jainism and Buddhism. They put their money behind these new religions that didn't care about your birth, only your conduct.
So, for the exam, when a question asks about the rise of these religions, the answer is a cocktail.
A mix of expensive rituals, priestly domination, Kshatriya ambition, and Vaishya money. It's socio-economic as much as it is spiritual.
That is a much clearer picture. Okay, let's move from the why to the what. Let's start with Jainism, the path of the conqueror.
Vardhamana and Mahavira. Now, Jains would say the religion is eternal, and Mahavira is just the 24th Tirthankara, the 24th guide.
But for our historical purposes, he's the key figure for this era.
He is. Born in Kundagrama near Vaisali, Kshatriya, of course. His parents were Siddhartha and Taxila.
And he didn't start out as a wandering ascetic.
No, he lived a normal life for a while, was married, had a daughter, but at age 30, he renounced it all. He became an ascetic.
And the source says he wandered for 12 years. That is a long time to be searching.
An incredibly long time, and it was not a comfortable journey. He practiced extreme austerity, even discarded his clothes. But finally, in the 13th year, at the age of 42, he attained Kavalagana.
Kavalagana, that's the ultimate goal, right? The highest spiritual knowledge.
Correct. It means absolute knowledge or omniscience. After that, he was known as Mahavira, the great hero, or Jina.
The conqueror. And that's where the name Jainism comes from.
Yes, followers of the Jina, because he had conquered his inner self-desire, attachment, all of it.
Okay, so he's achieved enlightenment. What does he teach? What's the core doctrine?
It boils down to the Triratnas, or the 3 gems.
Which are?
Right faith, right knowledge, and right conduct.
Sounds simple enough.
Well, the first 2 are about belief and understanding. Right faith is belief in Mahavira. Right knowledge is understanding the world as it is, which, interestingly, includes the idea that there is no creator God.
Okay, but right conduct, I feel like that's where the hard work comes in.
That is where the rubber meets the road. Right conduct refers to observing the 5 great vows.
Let's go through them.
Not to injure life, which is Ahimsa. Not to lie, Satya. Not to steal, Asteya. Not to acquire property, Aparigraha.
And the 5th.
And not to lead an immoral life, Brahmacharya.
Okay, that first one, Ahimsa, not to injure life. This is where Jainism gets really intense.
It absolutely is. And this brings us directly to a very important previous year question.
Let's hear it.
This is from the 2013 prelims paper, question 47. The question asks which statements are true for Jain doctrine. And one of the key statements was, every object, even the smallest particle, has a soul.
Every object, you mean like a rock? A rock has a soul.
According to Jainism, yes, a rock has a soul. Water has a soul, the air has a soul. They believe the entire universe is animated with living souls or jivas.
That's mind-blowing. So if you kick a stone, you're not just kicking a stone.
You are committing an act of violence against a living soul. This is why their concept of ahimsa is so radical and so extreme. They believe all these souls, even in plants and stones, feel pain.
So what does that mean for daily life? What about farming?
This is a crucial point. Farming was considered sinful. When you plow a field, you are injuring the soul of the earth itself, and you are killing countless worms and insects.
Wow. So that's why many Jains historically went into
Trade and commerce.
Yeah.
Exactly. It was a profession where you were less likely to cause harm to other living beings. It connects perfectly back to the Vaishyas supporting them. The theology and the sociology fit together like a puzzle.
That is fascinating. So the 2013 question also mentioned another doctrine, something about karma.
Yes, it said the surest way of annihilating karma is to practice penance. And that is also core to Jainism. They see karma as a kind of physical substance, like a fine dust that sticks to the soul and weighs it down.
And you have to scrub it off through austerity.
Exactly. Through fasting, meditation, and in some cases, extreme self-mortification. They believed you had to punish the body to liberate the soul.
Which is very different from the middle path of Buddhism we'll get to.
Very different. Jainism takes asceticism to its logical extreme.
Now, Jainism today isn't a single unified faith. There was a major split. Digambaras and Svetambaras. How did that happen?
The story is centered around a great famine in the Ganges Valley, around the end of the 4th century BC.
A climate event causing a religious schism.
Right. The famine was so severe that a large group of Jain monks, led by a teacher named Bhadrabahu, decided they couldn't stay and maintain their vows, so they migrated south.
And famously, someone very important went with them.
Yes, none other than the Emperor Chandragupta Maurya. He abdicated his throne to become a Jain monk and went with Bhadrabahu's group to Sravana in Karnataka.
An emperor giving it all up, that's a story in itself. But another group of monks stayed behind in the north.
They did, led by a monk named Stulabahu. They endured the famine.
And what happened when the famine ended and the southern group returned?
They found that things had changed. The monks who stayed behind in the north, under Stulabahu, had relaxed the rules. Specifically, they had started wearing white clothes.
Hence Svetambaras, the white-clad.
Precisely. But Bhadrabahu's group, the ones who went south, were horrified. They had stuck to the original, stricter code of complete nudity.
They became the Digambaras, the sky-clad.
Exactly. They accused the northerners of abandoning the true path. And that fundamental disagreement on the code of conduct created a schism that has never been healed.
Did they try to resolve it? Were there councils?
They did. The first council was held at Pataliputra, led by Stulabahu, but the Digambaras boycotted it. It wasn't until much later, at the second council in Vallabhi in the 5th century AD, that the scriptures, the 12 Angas, were finally compiled in their present form.
Okay, that's a fantastic overview of Jainism. Let's pivot now to the other giant of the era, Buddhism, the middle path.
Gautama Buddha, or Siddhartha Gautama, born in 567 BC in Lumbini Garden near Nepal, and, like Mahavira, a Kshatriya prince of the Sakya clan.
And his story is so iconic. He was sheltered from all suffering, but then he saw the 4 sights.
Right, an old man, a sick man, a dead body, and an ascetic. The first 3 showed him the inescapable reality of suffering and decay.
And the 4th showed him a potential way out.
A path to understanding and liberation. So at age 29, he leaves his palace, his wife, his son. The great renunciation.
And his first instinct was to follow the path of extreme austerity, right? Similar to the Jains.
It was. He practiced severe penance for years, starving himself, pushing his body to the absolute limit. But he found that it didn't lead to clarity. It just led to weakness and delirium.
You can't think straight if you're starving to death.
Exactly. He realized that torturing the body wasn't the way. So he abandoned that extreme path and sat under a Bodhi tree in Bodh Gaya, determined not to get up until he found the truth.
And at age 35, he did. He attained enlightenment. Nirvana.
He became the Buddha, the enlightened one. He then traveled to Sarnath, near Varanasi, and gave his first sermon.
The Dhammachakra Parivartana, the turning of the wheel of law. I love that phrase.
It is powerful.
So what was this law that he set in motion? What are the core teachings?
It all starts with the 4 noble truths.
Okay, let's list them. 1, the world is full of suffering.
Yes. 2, the cause of all this suffering is desire or craving. Tanha.
3, if you can get rid of desire, you can get rid of suffering.
Right. And 4, the way to do that is by following the noble Eightfold path.
Which is the famous middle path.
Exactly. It's the path that avoids the 2 extremes. The extreme of worldly indulgence he knew as a prince, and the extreme of self-torture he tried as an ascetic. It's a path of moderation.
Let's talk about that word nirvana. It's used so casually now, but what does it actually mean in a Buddhist, in a UPSC context?
This is another direct PYQ link from the 2013 prelims, question 37. The question was, which one of the following describes best the concept of nirvana in Buddhism?
And the correct answer was?
The extinction of the flame of desire.
Extinction of the flame. That's a powerful image. It's not about going to a happy place like heaven.
No, it's not a place at all. It's a state. If desire and karma are the fuel that keeps the fire of rebirth, the cycle of samsara, going,
then nirvana is when the fuel runs out.
the fire just goes out. It's cessation, an end to suffering because the cycle itself stopped. It's peace.
That's a much more profound concept. Now, what about the big questions? God and the soul. We know the Jains said there's no creator God. What did Buddha say?
Buddha's approach was, you could say, very pragmatic. He was essentially an agnostic.
Yeah, he didn't say yes or no.
He said it wasn't a useful question. His famous analogy was that if a man is shot with a poisoned arrow, he shouldn't waste time asking who shot the arrow. What was his cast? What was the bow made of?
He should just get the arrow out.
Exactly. The urgent task is to end suffering. Speculating about God doesn't help with that.
Okay, but then the soul. This is the part that always confuses me. He taught karma and rebirth, but he also taught anatta, or no soul.
Yes, the doctrine of no self or no soul.
How does that work? How can you have rebirth if there's no permanent soul to be reborn? It sounds like a flat contradiction.
It does, and it's one of the trickiest concepts in Buddhism. The traditional analogy is lighting one candle from another.
Okay.
The flame passes from the first candle to the second. Is the flame on the second candle the same as the flame on the first?
No.
Is it completely different?
Well, no, it's causally connected.
Exactly. It's a transfer of a process, of energy, of causal links. But there's no unchanging thing, no soul, that jumps from one candle to the next. That's how they view rebirth. It's a continuation of a karmic process, not the transmigration of a permanent soul.
That is a very subtle and deep idea. So for the exam, the key distinction is Jains believe everything has a soul. Buddhists believe nothing has a permanent soul.
That's the takeaway. And socially, like Mahavira, Buddha wasn't a political revolutionary. He didn't try to overthrow the caste system in society.
But within his own community.
Within the Sangha, the monastic order, caste was irrelevant. It was open to everyone, regardless of their birth.
Okay, so that's the foundation. But Buddhism didn't stay static. It evolved.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the councils.
The 4 Buddhist Councils. This is a high-yield topic. If you're studying, this is prime material for match the following questions.
So let's walk through them. Council number 1.
The first council happens right after the Buddha's death in Rajagriha. The chairman is Mahakassapa. The goal is simple. Preserve the teachings. They basically got all the senior monks together to recite everything they remembered the Buddha saying to codify it.
Lock it down before it gets distorted. Makes sense. Council number 2.
About 100 years later, in Vaishali, some disputes about monastic discipline were starting to creep in, but it's still relatively unified.
The third council is a big one, though, because of its patron.
Huge. The third council is in Pataliputra, and the patron is the Mauryan emperor, Asoka. Under the chairman, Moggalliputta Tissa, they finalized the compilation of the scriptures, the Tripitakas, and Asoka uses this as a springboard to send Buddhist missionaries all over the world.
So this is when Buddhism really starts to go global.
This is the moment.
Yeah.
But the fourth council, that's the one that changes everything internally.
The game changer.
Yes. The fourth council, held in Kashmir, the patron is Kanishka, the great Kushan king. The president is Vasumitra, with Asvaghosha as vice president.
And why is it so critical?
Because this is where the great schism, the great divorce in Buddhism, becomes official. This is the council that marks the definitive split into Hinayana and Mahayana.
Okay, let's break that down. Hinayana versus Mahayana. Let's start with Hinayana.
Hinayana means the lesser vehicle, which is a name given to them by their rival, so it's a bit loaded.
Yeah.
But they represent the original, more orthodox school of thought.
So for them, Buddha is
A great teacher, an enlightened human being, a guide to be followed, but not a god to be worshipped.
no idols then.
No idol worship. And they stuck to the Pali language, the language of the common people that Buddha himself used.
Okay, so that's Hinayana. What about Mahayana?
Mahayana means the greater vehicle. This is the newer, more innovative school. And for them, Buddha is deified. He is a god.
So they do have idols.
Yes, they introduce idol worship. They also introduce this incredible concept of bodhisattvas.
What are bodhisattvas?
They are enlightened beings who are on the verge of entering nirvana, but they choose to delay their own final liberation out of compassion, to stay in the world and help all other beings achieve enlightenment.
That's a major change. And what about the language?
This is a crucial point. They switch from Pali to Sanskrit.
Back to the elite, priestly language that Buddhism was originally a reaction against.
Exactly. It's a huge irony. And this connects to some recent PYQs. The 2022 prelims, question 22, asked about the deification of Buddha. And it was the Mahasanghikas, who were the forerunners to Mahayana, who really pushed this idea.
I see. And there was one from 2020 about a term, paramitas.
Yes. Question 31. It asks what paramitas were. The answer is that they are the perfections, like generosity, patience, wisdom, that one has to cultivate to follow the bodhisattva path. It's a purely Mahayana concept.
So, quick summary for the exam. If you see bodhisattva, idol worship, or Sanskrit, you should immediately think Mahayana.
Absolutely. And if you see Buddha as a teacher, Pali, and no idols, that's Hinayana.
Got it. Okay, let's look at the stuff they left behind. Art and architecture. Stupas, chaityas, viharas.
And this is another classic trap for students. The UPSC asked about it directly in 2013, question 36.
The question was simply about the difference between a chaitya and a vihara.
Yes, they sound similar. They're often found together, so people get them confused.
So give us the memory aid. How do we keep them straight?
Think chaitya starts with C, like chapel. A chaitya is a place of worship, a prayer hall.
Okay, chaitya is the chapel. And vihara.
A vihara is the monastery or the dwelling place. It's the dormitory where the monks lived.
So chaitya for prayer, vihara for residence.
Exactly. The exam answer was literally that. Chaitya is a place of worship, while vihara is the dwelling place of the monks. You see them both at sites like the Ajanta caves.
Now, what about statues? You said Mahayana introduced idol worship. That leads us to Gandhara art.
It does. The Gandhara school of art flourished in the northwest of the subcontinent, under the Kushans, especially Kanishka, and it's a fascinating blend.
A blend of what?
A blend of Indian subjects and Greco-Roman styles. Remember, that area had been under Greek influence since Alexander the Great.
So you get statues of Buddha that look a bit Greek.
Exactly. Buddha with wavy hair like a Greek god, wearing a toga-like robe with realistic folds. It's the first time we see Buddha depicted in human form, and he looks like Apollo. It's a complete departure from early Buddhism, which only used symbols like footprints or an empty throne.
And beyond art, what about education?
A massive contribution. The great Buddhist monasteries, the viharas, evolved into the world's first residential universities. Places like Taxila, Nalanda, and Vikramasila.
Nalanda was world famous.
People came from all over Asia to study there. They taught not just religion, but also logic, medicine, grammar, and philosophy. They were incredible centers of learning.
It's an incredible legacy. Which brings us to the big, slightly awkward question. If Buddhism was so successful, if it had emperors and universities and spread across Asia, why did it decline in India, the land of its birth?
It's a really complex question with a few key reasons. The first is the revival of Brahmanism, or what we now call Hinduism.
This was during the Gupta period.
Yes, Hinduism became more accessible. The Bhakti movement made it more personal and emotional, and Hinduism also. Well, it absorbed some of Buddhism's best ideas.
Right, Ahimsa.
Exactly, non-violence, vegetarianism. Hinduism adapted and became more appealing, and at the same time, Buddhism was losing its unique selling point.
You mean by adopting Sanskrit?
That was a huge part of it. When Mahayana Buddhism switched to Sanskrit, it lost that connection with the common people. It became another highbrow intellectual religion, just like the one it had originally rebelled against.
And the idol worship also made it look more like Hinduism.
It blurred the lines completely. To an ordinary villager, what's the difference between a Buddhist worshipping an idol of a bodhisattva and a Hindu worshipping an idol of Vishnu? Eventually, the Buddha even came to be seen by many Hindus as just another avatar of Vishnu.
So it was sort of absorbed back into the fold.
It was. And then came the final blow.
The invasions.
Yes. The invasions of the Huns and later the Turkish invaders. The Buddhist monasteries were wealthy, and they were obvious targets. When they sacked places like Nalanda, they didn't just steal treasure, they burned the libraries and killed or scattered the monks.
And since Buddhism was so dependent on these monastic centers.
When the monasteries were destroyed, the institutional backbone of the religion in India was broken. Hinduism, being more rooted in household and village rituals, was much more resilient.
It's a tragic end in a way, but the legacy obviously endured.
Immensely. The principle of Ahimsa became a core Indian value, influencing everyone right up to Mahatma Gandhi. And these movements permanently broke the absolute monopoly of the priestly class, opening up Indian thought forever.
What a journey. From religious unrest to philosophical revolution, imperial patronage, artistic creation, and eventual decline and absorption.
It really is a complete historical cycle.
So let's try to summarize the key aha moments for everyone listening, the things you absolutely have to remember for the exam.
Let's go.
1. The cause wasn't just religious, it was economic, driven by the Vaishyas, and political, driven by the Kshatriyas.
2. For Jainism, remember two things. Extreme Ahimsa, because everything, even a rock, has a soul. That's a direct PYQ, and the Great Split was caused by a famine.
3. For Buddhism, remember the middle path. And remember that Nirvana is the extinction of the flame of desire. Another PYQ. Also the tricky concept of anatta, no permanent soul.
4. The big shift happened at the Fourth Council with the rise of Mahayana. That's when you get idols, bodhisattvas, and the switch to Sanskrit.
And 5. For art. Chaitya is a chapel for prayer, vihara is for residence. Don't mix them up.
Nail those 5 points, and you've got the core of the chapter covered.
Perfect. Now, as we wrap up, here's a final thought to leave you with. Buddhism began as a popular revolt against complex rituals and the elite language of Sanskrit. But its most successful form, Mahayana, eventually adopted rituals and the Sanskrit language.
Like, great irony.
So the question is, did the very flexibility and adaptability that allowed Buddhism to spread so widely also cause it to lose its unique identity in India, leading to it being absorbed back into Hinduism?
It's the ultimate paradox of religious history. In order to survive, you change. But if you change too much, do you really survive at all?
Something to think about.
Definitely.
All right, that brings this deep dive to a close. And a final reminder, this entire analysis was brought to you by the Simplified UPSC by PPP YouTube channel.
Please, if you've listened this far and found it helpful, take a moment to subscribe on YouTube. It's the single best way to support what we do.
And if you can, consider supporting us on Patreon. It allows us to keep this content free and accessible to everyone.
And don't forget the Telegram channels. The public one has free notes and updates.
And the private library has the entire organized archive, the premium notes, model answers, the whole package for serious aspirants.
DM on the public channel to get access.
Look for us, join us, and let's keep learning together. We'll see you in the next deep dive.
Goodbye, and good luck with your preparation.